Today, we are joined by a number of folks who are going to be talking about the arts economies of Saxapahaw, North Carolina, which is in Alamance County, about a 20-minute drive outside of Chapel Hill. And I'm going to quickly introduce them, and then they're going to give more information about themselves and play some short videos and just kind of be in a pretty organic conversation with one another. And there's going to be ample time to ask questions. But if you happen to have any questions while they're talking or while they're introducing themselves, just feel free to put them in the chat and we will return to them when the moment feels right. So I just wanted to invite these folks to introduce themselves and start out by just telling us a little bit about who they are and the organizations that they operate, and why they're here. First of all, let's start with Heather, just because her square is closest to mine right now on our Zoom screen.
Hi, I'm Heather, and Heather Lagarde is my name, and I understand I'm supposed to describe myself a little bit. So I'm she, her, Heather, and I'm in the Haw River Ballroom, which is a 3-story music venue on the banks of the Haw River, which is now just bulging in front of us. I'm watching giant logs and trees pass as we're talking. And yes, should I dig in more than that and tell you a little bit more already, Amanda?
Yeah, you can say more, and just say more about how you got here and what the Haw River Ballroom is.
Okay. Well, I am from North Carolina. Originally, my parents taught at UNC, and I grew up right next to the campus and roller skated in Hill Hall as a child, and left North Carolina when I was 17 and traveled around the world and worked in international relations for Human Rights Watch and War Child and groups like that. But what I always did was arts programming, because I love the concept of this, where knowledge through the arts and learning through the arts is really, to me, what it's all about. So I used to run film festivals and large concerts, all for nonprofit global organizations. But I learned how to drive in Saxapahaw when I was 14, and it stuck in my mind as this magical, beautiful place. And we were living in New York City and went through the experience of 9/11 and really realized we wanted to not live there all the time anymore. And so I typed in barn, North Carolina, and I found the farm that we live in now, which is right across the street from Saxapahaw. And got to know the people who were renovating the mill, got to know Donovan, who really has been here the longest of us, and what he was doing here. And started a music series and farmers market outside, and that really worked. People started coming to it, and then we drew our focus onto this upper mill building, which is where the ballroom is, which was briefly in danger of getting knocked down. And so when we heard that that could happen, we just brought as many different people as we could together, called every wealthy friend and investor we knew to see if they would jump in on saving this building and being part of a expanding dream of Saxapahaw. And so the Haw River Ballroom was born along with the other neighboring businesses in this upper mill. And we never planned it. We did not have a business plan. We did not expect to run a music venue. We just organically saw the things that drew people here. And we love music and community and activism and the arts. And in the end, created a nest where we could do all of these things together in this space and outside, and with these amazing friends and partners who are here with us today.
My name's Donovan Zimmerman, and I live here in Saxapahaw, as well as have my business in the center of town. I have a giant puppet studio, some of which you can see. The puppets are here with me, languishing in the COVID times with nowhere to go. And nothing to do, no people to gather at the moment. I will say, I guess I'll finish my original introduction by saying I go by he, him. And for the other part, should I describe myself? I have a beard that is now gray. It used to be red. I have a black t-shirt. I have short hair. I'm diabolically handsome with hoop earrings in either ear. I have kind of a big nose, but it's okay. I'm good with it. I'm like, sort of built like the Hulk, sort of just like super strong, big guy. Anyway, taking it back down. That's good. Okay, enough of that. You shouldn't have asked me that. Anyway, I originally landed here in Saxapahaw. In North Carolina, I'll say first, because I came to an environmental education festival, learning celebration it's called, that happens here, called the Haw River Festival or Haw River Learning Celebration. And I came to my first one of those when I was about 20 years old with a long time ago with a former girlfriend, and she introduced me. And so I got introduced to this river, and I got introduced to the community of folks, the artists, the storytellers, the musicians, the scientists that were living here. And I was very drawn to the area. So I came back through many times and met my wife to be and moved here in 99. And then I basically just, it was back when the independent magazine, the Indie Week, used to have land advertisements just right on the back of the paper. And we just saw 30 acres for sale, Saxapahaw. And I called the number and we came out, and it would just kind of all happened really quickly. We bought some land here. And I've been farming that with my wife, Leah, ever since, and growing an orchard. And now we have a daughter who's 8. And so I originally started in the space where Heather is sitting now with Paper Hand. And we inhabited that space when it was a derelict, rundown, funky old mill that no one wanted to look at or think about. And we built our first maybe 8 or 10 shows in there over 10 years. And then the creation of the ballroom and the cafe and the Eddy and the condos was all coming into being. And so we had to find a new space. And Heather helped me navigate my way down to this space, which was also laying kind of derelict. So Saxapahaw was a very different place 20 years ago. I would say pretty emphatically when we moved out here. I mean, there was just, I couldn't really name one thing besides some local farmers that was really going on. But anyway, since then, our work has been growing and growing in audience and growing just within our scope of what we have been able to accomplish and feel like we could do. But we make giant puppets and masks and shadows and stilts, and we perform with them. We do parades. We lead residencies, and we just try to use puppetry as a tool for the bettering of the world in any way that we can.
Hi, I am Muriel, and this is Tommy, and we are both co-director of Culture Mill, which is a performing art laboratory, as Amanda said.
Describe yourself too.
Oh, I describe myself. I am dressed in black. I have how do you call that? A hoodie?
Hoodie.
I am French. I have a French accent, as you can hear. And I have a hoodie, and I have a hat, and I have dark hair and brown skin.
Yeah.
Describe yourself.
I'm wearing a flannel shirt. It's like a lumberjacky sort of look. And I'm a light-skinned man who's almost as diabolically handsome as Donovan, but not quite. Yes, here I am, brown hair.
Yeah, and so we are co-directing this performing art laboratory. Together, we are both movement artists, choreographers, dancers, performers. It's our main medium. We work with the body as a starting point, and that manifests in various ways in dance performance and other kind of event and shows and collaborations.
Yes. And actually, I go back furthest of anyone in this village, because as a kid, I used to hunt crawdads back in the woods. And I used to like pass by the derelict building with like the windows and the broken and everything.
This is true to me, though I was the one pushing to move to Saxapahaw.
It's true. That's true.
So-
We had met in Europe, and
So we met in Germany, in dancing for a dance company in southern Germany, and then we moved on to be freelancers in Berlin. And as time passed, we were starting, especially I, and we started to be tired of the freelancer life and the kind of transient life where we were feeling that our work were not relevant to the places where we were making it. And we came to Saxapahaw.
I didn't want to move back to the U.S., but Mu was like, "Obama's president now. I think it's all good. We can do it."
Yes.
So we moved to Saxapahaw.
And then we visited, and we visited Saxapahaw, and it was interesting to me that I've been only to the US on tour in San Francisco years before, so I had a really limited relationship to the US. And then they were a general store, never set a foot in a general store before. And then somebody of his family told us there is a ballroom that is amazing, you need to go. And coming from Berlin, I was thinking, they are
We were
probably...
like, I was picturing like folding tables, fluorescent lights, and like Friday night bingo, and we were like, great, I'm sure it's great.
And because it was his family, we said, we will check it out. And then we entered the ballroom, and I said, well, there is things to be doing here.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And we met Heather at the bottom of her stairs. And it started a movement toward there is something possible in Saxapahaw, perhaps. And that's how we moved here 7 years ago.
7 years ago. And when we came here too, we also met Donovan, and were just sort of...
And the farmer's market.
And the farmer's market.
There was some kind of bubbling that we didn't see in our transient life in Berlin. There was a sense of togetherness, of people sharing space together that we were not experiencing in a big city like Berlin in Germany, and we're missing that. And so came the idea also of building something from the ground up and relating to the place more.
Yeah, absolutely. We could go further, but we can also stop there for now.
Up there.
Thank you. Yeah, we will definitely go further. So yeah, let's return to Heather and get a kind of a sense of the space that she's in, and she can tell us a little bit about the space. Maybe it's a little bit more about its like architectural history and just like what is behind her, how it's laid out. And then Heather also has a short video that's related to an initiative that she's involved with called Save Our Stages. So I was hoping you could talk about that a little bit too. And then Heather will just play her video at the end of her time speaking.
So yes, I'm in the Haw River Ballroom right now. That is where Donovan put all of his magic creativity in before we got here. That is where we managed to lure Tommy and Moo to stay and come back to Saxapahaw and never return to foreign lands again and stay with us. And I do think it's a magical place. It was the dye house for the cotton mill. So there's a lower mill that's now apartments. And the upper mill is mostly commercial. So the Eddy is here, and the Saxapahaw General Store, and the Hawbridge School, and the ballroom, and there's a butchery and a brewery and all that kind of stuff going on over here. And but the ballroom is and was the most complicated space because it's the interior middle space. It was really, really in very bad shape. And so it took years of deconstruction before we could start the reconstruction. It's running on solar power and geothermal power, which was really important to us. It's 3 floors with all glass the whole way down the 3 floors, looking out over the beautiful Haw River, which is another thing that really connects us all, both in our love of this place and of the environment. And I kayak on it every day, except for maybe not today, but most days. It's just a huge part of what is the draw to Saxapahaw for me, which is why we called this the Haw River Ballroom instead of the Saxapahaw Ballroom, causing a lot of consternation to the nearby town of Haw River, who gets a lot of inquiries about where the Haw River Ballroom is. So, but it's because the river, to me, is the heart of all of this place. And so we went through a bunch of different building ideas and projects. We thought we'd have a movable space. We thought we'd have a stage that could move. We'd have walls that could move, and all of that turned out to be crazy. And what I found out is that if you have to raise the money to do a project over time, it's good because it gives you more time to think about what's the right decision, and you have to make a lot of hard choices that have been thought through really intensely. And every hard choice that we ended up having to make is something I'm grateful for now. Every frivolous thing we could have done if we had all the money in the world, I'm so glad we couldn't do. And I think then you see how a space is used and the desire lines of a village and a space, and you keep changing it. But we decided that we would make the top 2 floors of the space be a coffee shop by day, so that the village would not feel like this was a closed performance space show box that they were not welcomed into except for with a ticket. We hated that idea. So there's a coffee shop here, not because it makes any money. It's not open at the moment because of COVID-19, but it's open, and it was open to be a free Wi-Fi spot and a community hangout spot and a collaboratory, so that we could all meet together. I mean, there's a table that I think of as Donovan's table. There's a section where Tommy and Moo usually hang out. I'm on the 3rd floor right now, and I'll just show you that sadly this has become my lonely office, but this is the 3rd floor of the ballroom. And I should have had the lights on more, but that's there's a 2nd floor, and then there's the stage down there. And we're a 715 capacity music venue for standing shows. We do conferences, and we do weddings, and we do a lot of benefits, and we do a lot of dances, and we mostly do music. And then Tommy and Moo come and use the space sometimes for Culture Mill, which we love. And we would always love it if Donovan ever wanted to use the space. And a lot of people come to us to try to use it. And in this sad, sad time of COVID, which is really, we've been completely closed since March 16th, we have pivoted to doing music videos and films. So we're not doing a lot of live streaming, but we're doing really in-depth films where people are coming to Saxapahaw, doing rehearsals and shooting here for an entire week, and making something kind of more beautiful out of it that's more substantive to us than a something that we feel like could be done anywhere, which would be like a live stream type thing. So we are doing some of that, but we're really encouraging the longer film projects that use all of Saxapahaw to happen here. We are imagining that we will be closed for quite a long time, and we have prepared for that mentally as best as we can, and emotionally and financially as best as we can. But you can imagine it's a pretty intense space with a lot of expenses, and whether we're closed or not, they remain. So we've become part of a group called the National Independent Venue Association, which was started by a woman in Minnesota, where Prince actually got his start, is her club. And she is just a wonderful woman named Dana Frank. And she's now got all of us who are independent venue owners across the nation combined together to work on advocacy as a group and try to work with our government to see if we can get some kind of a special setup, because a lot of the government funding doesn't work for places that are totally shuttered, and that where we had to let go of our staff, which is really the biggest heartbreak of the whole thing. So we're just working to see if we can come up with some creative ways of getting funding that will hold spaces there. The ballroom in truth is safe. We're very lucky in that. And in part, it's because of our really wonderful collaborative projects and friends in Saxapahaw. But so many venues are not, and you're going to start to see them disappear. They're already disappearing now, and by January, hundreds are going to start to close across the nation. So we're trying so hard to raise money for other groups and work together to save this independent venue special critter, which is very different from like a Live Nation or a Starbucks kind of venue.
We will come back to Heather again, and yeah, any questions you have, please ask them so we can return to them. But yeah, Donovan, will you give us a bit of more of a tour of your space and also introduce us to well, introduce us to your puppets clearly, but also set the framework for the video that we're about to see that you wanted to share with us.
Yeah. So I'm sitting in an old gymnasium that is a community center it was for many years, and then it was, like I said earlier, laying empty, and people were breaking in and playing basketball, I think was my last recollection. I remember those days. There was a building I really didn't pay attention to at all, though, when I was working in the mill. And it, but we moved in here, yeah, I think it's 10 years ago. Is that how long the ballroom's been open, Heather? 10 years? So anyway, I don't know if I can reverse my camera. Let's see. Yeah, I can. So there's just piles of puppets from years past shows kind of along the walls, and different things, banners. We make a lot of cardboard sets and flats and things to manipulate. This is Humbaba. There's just walls full of giant, there's Father Time and the sky and a tree shepherd. And then we have these living trees that we make here, sort of into the general concept that, you know, the earth is alive and needs to be respected and venerated. Here's a couple of trolls, twin brothers. Tommy, weren't you one of these? Yeah, Tommy got to be one of these. It's a two-person puppet. It's brothers, and they just continually whump each other in the face. It's pretty hilarious. Tommy was especially adept at whumping his partner in the face with his big meaty fist. Here's some turtles. Let's see if I can. This is one of our giant turtle puppets. We've got a couple of those. Here's some more heads of Gilgamesh and Enkidu from that ancient story. There's Roberta relaxing. Let's see, got a bunch of merch. Some more turtles, a giant owl. And we've got a whole nother room in the back full of just tons and tons more giant puppets that we've been making over the years. And whoa, let's see. That's not an interesting view at all. I guess the video that I chose really kind of sums up, or at least it summed up last year, why we are here. The show itself was called We Are Here, and I have to say we made the list many times, and I could make a new list right now. But when we ask when you ask yourself the question, what are you here to do, or why are we here? As an arts organization, that's mostly what I was, I don't want to go into the wider, like, why are we here? I don't know, that's a little too far, but why is my organization doing the work that it is doing? And I think that the video sums it up pretty well, but we have our roots in activism and standing up for the earth and standing up for the water, and sort of making an attempt to bring some reverence back to our human condition toward the earth so that we can actually survive here. So it's been sort of a long, I would say, long haul battle, but I don't really see it as a battle. I just see it as we're in the struggle to find a way to live here creatively that offers an opportunity for us to survive as a species, because I think that capitalism and the consumptive cultural norms that we call the status quo are often extremely violent, and not only to people of all kinds, but the earth itself. And I just don't accept that as the norm. And so we work really hard with our work to normalize connection and beauty and joy. And there's this, a lot of things that we try to shift the narrative from the common narratives that we get from being alive in this society in the US, especially. So our work is really tied to that activism, and we are very collaborative as an organization. And Jan and I, and my partner who I started this with, Jan Berger, we work in collaboration together, and we bring in other artists, choreographers, movers, shakers, stilt walkers, paper cutters, and we mostly hire them. So a sort of unplanned aspect of our organization has been to be able to support other artists. But it has been a really fulfilling and wonderful feeling to be able to have some of the resources redirected to our local creative community. And I would say ultimately our goal is to be an antidote to some of the things I mentioned before by creating a community that's rooted in consent and creativity and compassion. Those are the three that I would call out as the new world that we're trying to build, the new story that we're trying to tell. So I guess we can just play the video unless you think there's something else I should add, Amanda. I'm not sure. I don't want to take up too much time.
No, that's great. The video, I think, says a lot. And so if people have questions after the video plays, please populate our chat.
We are here to learn, to explore, and to heal. We are here to dream and build a better world together.
We are here to create our best work and rise as a community.
We are here to bring laughter, excitement, and joy. We are here
to inspire us all to feel more deeply connected to the earth and its creatures.
We are here to stand up for justice, stand up for our planet, and work for peace.
We are here to celebrate 20 years of Paper Hands puppetry, art, storytelling, and magic. We are here to make an original giant puppet pageant with masks, stilts, shadows, and live music.
We are here to give thanks.
Please help us manifest this vision by giving or sharing today.
First of all, just seeing the video from Heather and the ballroom, and then your video, Donovan, is just I don't even know if I
feel kind of weepy.
Yeah, exactly. In a cognitive place, because I'm all here right now.
Go ahead. Sorry, Pablo.
But you can go, so then I can get over my things, and I can speak.
I think is really, when we arrived here, there's one thing that is already really apparent in the village is the sense of collaboration, even before we speak about the arts, like within even the businesses, right? There is a sort of a recognition amongst a lot of the businesses that are here that if they are all promoting one another and therefore promoting a place, the idea of a place, that all businesses are thriving. And I think that already lays a particular ground. Like quite often, I think as artists, we have to realize in artistic communities that art is not a zero-sum game, right? And we have to be like, wait, we don't have to compete. If we all collaborate and help one another, we can go against that sort of capitalist ethos, but that is already sort of apparent when we arrive in the ways that like, you know, like I have to quite honestly say Heather is like leading the ship of like the coordinated social media effort for many years in the village of like, hey guys, like if we all use the same hashtags and like tag each other and really push this, like all the businesses will thrive. And so that as a foundation in the village, I think it sort of helped also for us to sort of situate into this place where at least amongst the three of us too, there's just like, we're all just sort of collaborating or talking about collaborating in whatever ways make sense, and it's a really wonderful interconnectedness in many ways.
Yeah, it is one of the things that we were, even though being part of the performance community in Germany or in Europe, it's had a lot of quality, but what we're missing is this like tight-knit, how do you say that?
Tight-knit.
Tight-knit community of people that can work, yes, that can work together and that have like the space for that and this connection to place, as I was saying before, that is really like a gathering principle for us.
Yeah. And so we're in the Culture Mill Lab, which is in contrast to the ballroom and paper
well,
hand.
it's a storefront. It's a storefront shop in Saxapahaw that we convert into a studio. It has been previously a bookshop and a gallery and other things in the past. And it was a perfect home for what we do because we do our own shows, but we also have artists in residencies there. So they come here and they work on their ongoing project with us. I mean, not currently, but they used to.
Yeah. But we call it a performing arts laboratory because actually the work that we do, like some of it happens in Saxapahaw, but a lot of it happens many other places. And so this is kind of a place where we receive energy here and we also like cook stuff here and then we move outwards. And we work a lot in collaboration with other artists and other institutions. And kind of just to touch on that too, and to kind of touch on like what Heather was saying before, you know, the troubles facing, for example, independent venues. It's really interesting how COVID-19 has been really difficult in different ways for different organizations, depending on how they're set up. And we've been quite fortunate being a 501c3 that does not rely primarily on ticket sales or earned income. So when we lose income in an economic shock like this, it is through some commissions we had lined up that can't happen. But we sort of primarily subsist on a combination of public and private funding as well as donor Patreon, like sustainer support. And so for us, we are often working really hard to articulate a narrative about why the work we do is important to have embodied arts in a community place-based setting, and then creating our sort of revenue streams based upon that narrative as opposed to direct transactional ticket sales for our events. And so that's made us quite fortunate, at least in this particular instance.
And this is directly inspired, this model is directly inspired by where I'm coming from, about what we used to experience. In France, there have been all this initiative of small independent dance company or artistic initiatives that were state-funded mostly, which is a different thing than here. We converted that into like public and private funding, but it's the same model. The idea of why it is relevant to have not only big organizations, but also smaller organizations in place like this, in rural settings, in project housing, in all of those places. So our model is directly inspired from that.
our chat is being filled up with questions for you all.
Yes.
So I wanted to get to them because we only have about 15, 20 minutes left. So Jamie was interested in knowing if there are any ideas or projects that you're thinking about working toward that you're excited about whenever it's safe to host performance events again. And I would say you can even answer that with even before it's safe performance events. I think that there's a lot going on. So just any of you who'd like to take Jamie's query about the projects that you're working on that you're excited about now.
Yes. So we have an ongoing project with researcher around dance for people living with Parkinson's. That was a ADF commission, a performance commission last year, and the project is continuing for 3 years, and now we are embarking into a collaboration with Duke University for a pilot project around creative movement for people living with Parkinson and the relationship of creative movement and the creative process for enhancing outcomes for people living with Parkinson. So that is a project that is ongoing. It's not a performance, though we are trying to include the component of the performance making into the research pilot, because it's a really important parameter for people to be participating in a performance.
Yeah, and I would just sort of tag on to that just in the end, that we're sort of, it's taking a long time, and what we're rethinking is not how can we just create performances that just happen differently, but how can we rethink the entire way of engaging people and participating in this creative work, which isn't necessarily a performance. I mean, it can be about socially distance spaced workshops outside and small performative moments and one-on-one
yeah, I think it's also because we are thinking of performances as experiences, as shared embodied experiences. So when we think of performance now in the COVID time, we are processing how do we continue to have embodied shared experiences that are not within the same framework. That's what we are used to. So it can be a one-on-one performance, it can be through Zoom, it can be a lot of the, we are actually right now really grappling with the format of those and how we can create meaningful embodied experience so that we don't just default into, oh, we can just do something on the screen and that's it, or we do something outside. Yes, but how? How is the space in between people inhabited when we do that? So that's the project with Parkinson for me is really dear because it's really dive deeply into the relationship to the body and to like what it means to be virtuosic. We as dancer, we have a relationship to what virtuosity is, and we question that with like different bodies and different ability. What does it mean to be virtuosic? And how do we invest in that? And so we invest that format of research with that idea.
I would just say that I think my organization is very different in structural form to some degree, though there is a lot of crossover. Using what I call community-based support systems like Kickstarter and Patreon have been pretty key to our survival here at Paper Hand. So our patrons are sticking with us. They're, our sustainers are, and we actually got a lot more right as we sort of announced that we were going to do our show this summer back in late March, early April. And there was a real surge of support, which was very moving, and it's testimony a little bit to just how it's become a bit of a real part of people's lives here in the Triangle, and that means everything to me. And it's helping us to survive this. But we are an LLC and not a nonprofit 501c3. So we basically have had to depend a little bit more on the transactional and the gig economy, like just basically hustling out into the world with truckloads of puppets and asking for money in return. Shake the puppet, is sort of one of the things that we do. And it is working out to some degree. I mean, just in non-COVID times, and it has been like working out in it, just keeping us going, which I think is all any artist could really start out by asking for. And then from there, maybe it can, you can ask for a little more. But I think that it's hard to know what the future holds as far as COVID is concerned, and how our society is restructuring itself in many ways. And I'm still sort of bullheadedly clinging on to the idea of gathering people into spaces again, just because I can't let go of it quite yet. I just as much as the art has been evolving for me over the years, I realized that really what I'm here to do is, gather people and have them have a collective experience together in a space or in a place. A lot of the things we do are outdoors, so that's helpful. So I'm hoping that there's a way that we can get back to that. And in the meantime, I'm using this time to create a book, a coffee table book, but that's what and I wouldn't have been able to do this in non-COVID without this space opening up. Though we've been dreaming about it, I wouldn't have been able to actually make it happen with all the hustling that we do. Anyway, that's enough for that for now, I think. But did Heather want to say something?
Well, I was just going to add to Heather's kind of question. Hannah asked Heather specifically what the business model is for the music videos and film work at the Hall River Ballroom right now. So certainly, Heather, add whatever you're kind of looking forward to. But yeah, if you have anything to respond to Hannah as well.
Sorry, if you could repeat that question. I have a 16-year-old here, so I didn't hear it. Sorry.
16-year-olds, they're so loud.
They're actually so awesome and have taught themselves how to play guitar and piano or composing during this period. But yeah, I didn't hear. I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
Hannah was asking Heather what the business model for the music videos and film work at the ballroom are.
Okay, so we're making it up as we go. I think just to what Donovan and Tommy and Moo were saying, they are actual artists and they're arts administrators and business owners and figuring everything out. I am not an artist. I'm a nest builder and connector, lover of the arts. So, but it does mean that I'm really like, what I have is a space, and so if I can't use the space, it's very weird. I do run a lot of events outside, and I have not been willing to do them, and I will not do them for quite a while. So I have one foot in the ballroom, but my other hat and my other life is global health. And I work and run a global health conference called Switchpoint on humanitarian design and technology, and that's my other life. And so I'm very, very aware of what's happening with global health in the world right now. And I have been trying to figure out how to feel that I can responsibly do what I feel good about doing and safe about doing, and thinking that through. And so for us, we really have decided no public performances, no audiences for quite a while. Even if we are given a higher capacity, which now in the space that normally holds 750, our capacity now was 25 last week, is 10 this week. So we've economically, there's no point anyway, but even if we had a higher capacity, I would not be holding shows inside for quite a while. And even outside, the farmers market and music series we've run for 16 years outside, I didn't run this year, and I probably won't run next year, heartbreakingly, because I don't want to turn into a policeman of people, telling them to wear masks or keeping them apart or in their pods. I don't have the extra energy in my heart to do that. And so until I feel like it can be safe, I'm holding off. We almost did an end of Saturdays in Saxapahaw on the river, in the water, with boats and all the musicians in the water on a sandbar. And I didn't do it because even the put-in is narrow enough that I didn't feel like we could responsibly do that. So there are there are smaller arts events that can be done, but I have a fear of, honestly, I have a fear of my ability to get too many people together. And so I'm trying to figure that out. And so we're going online. So we have these films, and what we've done is contacted a lot of the agents and the artists that we love, who love Saxapahaw, and said, come here, rehearse, work on your next album, film things in time, and do a show, and we'll, film it here. So we have had, in the last couple of weeks, Sylvan Esso and Iron and Wine, Mipso, and Steinway Grand Pianos did a shoot here, and the Country Soul Songbook did something here, and Tommy and Moo have done some things here, which we've been thrilled about. And then Switchpoint, which is the conference that I run, we have taken that online, and we do it all over. We used to take it physically all over the world after launching it here at the Ballroom, and now we're just doing it online all over the world. So tomorrow I'm filming 16 Nigerian women, advocacy, nurse, wonderful people who are living in internationally displaced areas and running incredible programs there, to do what we're doing right now, except for we're going to do choreography in a way of like breaking through this boring screen so that we can seem like we are somehow surprisingly and magically physically together more than this hideous 2D space that I hate and so tired of, and I'm sure you're all so tired of. So we're trying to innovate. These film projects that we're doing here, really, they don't pay very much at all. We have just as much empathy with our artist friends. How can we hit them up for money right now? It's not, it's not really possible. So we're trying to, we're all just trying to contribute to each other, but there's a sensitivity to the fact that it's the people with the least work trying to help each other, and we are. So I think to me that the magic of Saxapahaw is that we somehow survive this, that actually, even with our arts organizations kind of shuttered, the land and the businesses, the other businesses of Saxapahaw are still existing and okay. It's incredible. So that hopefully when we come back burstingly in the future, it can grow even stronger. But I really do believe it's this network. I mean, I remember when I met Donovan, and I remember the first show I saw of his. I remember the bottom of the stairs meeting Tommy and Moo and thinking, what can we do to make them stay here forever? And what each of these people have done, and also the people who live here, like you, Amanda, who are all together trying to figure out how to live as a village, how to do these arts, how to be a society in a challenging global time. I feel so grateful to be in this little microcosm trying to figure this out together.